So my first question for you is this. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters.
Correct.
What does that mean to you, and why am I asking you that about that particular Bible verse, Colossians 3:23?
I think you can use that Bible verse all around in life in general.
That's your favorite verse.
A favorite verse, yeah. And we establish our foundation based out of that verse.
We being at G1?
Yes.
So what does G1 stand for now that we're getting into it?
So G1 stands for God First. And we definitely want to just have that foundation in our program to kind of show the kids that this is just more than just basketball. This is about life, building character, and just showing who God is and what he expects from us, not just in sports, but in life. So,
is it more Christian parochial? Do you take people of other faiths as well?
Anyone is, we take everybody. Anyone can join a program. We don't slam the people with the Bible over the head, but we do have something that we do every day in practice is we pray. We pray, just kind of start off our day with just prayer and just showing the kids that, we want to have that in our life. We just want to have that relationship with God, and just having that, I think it's important.
I had an interesting conversation with a priest in New York who officiated a wedding, who spent a lot of time going out to work with artists, very avant-garde and very progressive, very liberal, ostensibly non-churchy artists. And his notion was, I don't ask them to come to church. I don't talk to them about God. I bring church to them in a way. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're doing? Are you
exactly what we're doing?
So is it God through basketball, or is it basketball through God? What is it?
Right now, for us, is just leading by example and just being a light in our community. And that's our approach.
We are talking to Rolo Nunez, founder, director, and head coach of G1 Elite Basketball, product of San Fernando Valley. You're about 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah.
Lefty or righty?
Righty.
Okay. And you were small forward?
I was a guard. Yeah, I played mainly guard, shooting guard.
Yeah, you were known as a lights-out shooter back in your day.
A little bit.
So you played in Peru. You also played in Mexico.
Correct.
In Mexico, between seasons, that's where you got the calling. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Shepherd's Church offered you position, newly developed basketball club, head coach.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What happened there?
You know what? I've always been around the game of basketball, right? Whether I'm playing, just volunteering.
So can you say that a little?
Yeah.
So
I've always wanted to just help out the community. Okay. And one of those ways was my church was offering, training for kids.
This was in Mexico? Or?
No, this was at Shepherd of the Hills Church.
Okay.
And so in between my time of playing pro basketball, I just volunteer at the church, show up, and just ask if they needed help for any basketball training. And so I would go out, train the kids during the summer, and then right after the summer was over, I'd head back to Mexico and play pro basketball.
So you've been a man of faith for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, I've been just, as a man of faith, I just always wanted to be using the game of basketball as a tool to kind of share my faith. And just so once I felt like it was time for me to step away from the game of basketball, I thought, this is a good opportunity for me to coach and have the kids grow up in the game of basketball, learning about God, and just using basketball as a tool to do that.
You were talking about you felt the call to take the next step in your journey with your faith when you accepted the position at Shepherd's Church. Is that correct?
So I grew up being a Christian since I was like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And
that's when you were baptized?
That was when I was baptized, yeah. And so right when I decided to give my life to the Lord, I started just, kind of taking pride on that, And so when I started coaching and training, I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. And so when I felt like I was led to kind of be more of a role model as a coach, I started, thinking about my own program of who I want to start, what we want to do outside of Shepherd of the Hills. And that's when I started G1 League Basketball.
So Shepherd of the Hills was in Mexico or was in the United States?
No, it was the United States, in Porter Ranch.
I see. So you came back in the off season. Yeah. That's when you received your calling.
Correct.
And then you decide from there to open your own facility program.
Yeah.
And that was called G1 Elite.
Correct.
How long ago was that?
This is about 5 years now.
Were you nervous at all? That's a big step.
Oh yeah, it was a huge step. I had no idea how to start a program, where I was going to practice.
How did you start? I mean, how do you lit from the ground up? How do you start?
You know what? I prayed on it, and I just started making phone calls as well, just kind of seeing what gyms I can use, where we're going to practice, where we're going to base out a program. And God opened those doors, man.
A little prayer while walking, as it were?
Yeah, exactly. And,
Yeah.
you know, throughout my time of just like ups and downs, I found a small local church where we're from in Chatsworth, and they opened the doors to us and just said, hey, nobody's using the gym here. You guys are free to use it. And so that was a huge blessing for me.
Wow.
You know, out of obedience of just praying and just kind of letting God lead, I was just able to use that facility for quite some time.
How did they find out that you were looking, or how did you find out that they had an open space?
So, funny story, I was actually already booked at Heritage Christian School to run practices there.
Okay.
And then they started telling me that due to school events, we're going to have to start limiting your practice time. And eventually they just kind of had to tell me, you know what, I don't think it's going to work out. And so
Was that that was unfortunate? Were you saddened about that? Frustrated?
I was frustrated, and I was just disappointed because I was like, okay, now what we're going to do?
This is your first year.
This is my first year. And so I was living with my in-laws at the time, and I woke up one morning, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm just going to try to clear my head. And right before I walk out the door, I see my father-in-law looking out at his yard, just kind of standing there. And
In the window, looking out
in
of
the
his
window,
yard.
just kind of like staring at his yard. And so God put in my heart, like, why don't you go ask him what he's thinking? And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to go out and just kind of clear my head a little bit. So
Okay.
I ended up talking to him, and we had a great conversation, and we were talking about what a man is to be to his wife and his daughters.
You're
What-
asking your
what that-
father-in-law this.
Yeah. And
How long
just-
had you been married at that point?
This is probably my first or second year of being married. In the middle, yeah,
Was he happy that you were a man of faith marrying his daughter?
absolutely.
And was he's a man of faith as well?
He is. He wasn't necessarily walking with the Lord at the time, but he was a man that believed in God, and I wanted to be an example to him and just kind of share my faith with him, who I am as a Christian.
In that moment, or just in general?
And in that moment as well, right? So he knew who I am, right? Like, but so after our prayer with him, that moment, I look across the street and I see my buddy. His name is Doc.
Wait, were you praying with him?
I was praying, and after our
Wait, with him, you guys engaged in prayer
Yeah,
after?
yeah,
he's standing at the window looking out. You decide, because you've been moved to do so, to walk over and talk to him. At some point during that process, you guys start to pray?
we started to pray, and after my prayer was
Did you
over,
normally pray with him?
I didn't. I've
Was that the
never
first
done
time?
that. I've
That was the
never
first
done
time?
That was my first time
Oh my
doing that
gosh.
with him. Yeah. So as soon as our prayer was over,
Wait, how long was that conversation?
it was
2 minutes,
about
20 minutes?
15 minutes.
And then how do you broach the topic? Do you say, do you want to just join hands and pray? Like, how do you do that?
So yeah, I was just like, hey, you know what, Adam? I think let's just pray right now.
Well, how did he respond?
He was like, absolutely.
He was not freaked out by it?
No, not at all.
So just you two are two men,
Uh-huh.
generationally separated, but connected through, among other things, his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You say we should pray. He said, you guys just, when you close your eyes, bow your head,
Yeah,
join hands?
that's it. Yeah.
And then you're praying with him.
Yes,
Are you leading the prayer?
I was. Yeah.
Was he nervous at all?
I didn't sense he was nervous. I think he was just open to it. You know, he was just like, okay, let's do this. You know,
That was his first time that ever happened.
first time ever happened.
So you're leading him through prayer, and what happens?
So as soon as we're done with our prayer,
How long was the prayer, by the way? 20 seconds, 2
it
minutes?
was probably about a minute or so.
What'd you get into? Like,
You know what? Because we were talking about my daughters and his daughters. I was like,
your
man,
daughter, say you have two daughters.
I have 3 daughters now. But at the moment, at that time, I had 2 daughters.
He had 2 daughters, so there's
Yeah.
some symmetry there, but
Yeah.
obviously there are his grandkids.
Yeah.
And what were you talking
And
about?
we had that conversation about what a man looks like, you know, to the daughter, to our daughters, right? And what kind of example we want to set for them.
Okay.
So we prayed about that, and as soon as my prayer was over, I look across the street and I noticed a friend was looking at an open house.
As you guys finish the prayer, does he walk off? Is he just standing
He's
there?
staying there.
You're just standing there in the window, standing after prayer, and just like being two
Yeah.
men
Yeah,
in the moment of God.
yeah.
Okay. You look across the street,
And I
You
noticed
see your
my
friend-
buddy. So I
buddy
go
from high school?
No, just basketball.
Okay.
Right? We just around playing basketball in
Okay.
adult leagues, and I noticed my friend's looking at an open house, and I just go out there and call out his name.
What's his name?
His name is Doc.
You go and say, "What's up, Doc?" Did you say, "What's up, Doc?"
Yeah.
Did you? Oh my God! Not that that's the first time he got that in his life,
Right,
but, you
no.
but you literally went out and said, "What's up, Doc?"
Yeah, what's up, Doc? He turned around and we started chopping it up. And he tells me, hey, man, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Why don't you come over to this church? I just got hired as a pastor at this local church.
So you guys knew you were both people of God when
Yeah.
you were playing ball growing. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And he goes, there's this gym. We could just shoot around and catch up at our church. And I just look at him like, there's no way. Like, I'm like, by any chance, does anyone ever use it during the week? He goes, no, nobody's ever there. And I'm like, no way. So now I don't ask at the moment because I didn't want to be about, hey, let me go in there.
Transactional
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
So I just want to give it some time. But I call him up a few days later and it's like, hey, Doc, by any chance, would it be okay for us to come in there and run G1 practices?
To which were you nervous when you asked him that?
A little bit.
Okay. Why were you nervous? Were you nervous he was going to say no? Were you nervous that you were broaching a topic about business that, crossed the line from friendship? Like, what were you nervous about?
I was nervous that you just say no or it's not available, that other people are already using it.
Okay.
And so, but then when he said, hey, nobody ever uses it, you're welcome to use it.
Yeah.
My jaw just dropped. But at the same time, I just was so grateful and just knowing that God, through my obedience of listening to say, hey, go talk to your father-in-law and just spend some time with him, is I was able to see my friend across the street and be, open to allowing us to come over and use this gym. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
So you start there, you start training there after that profound experience.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
You start training there, and that was the launch point, really the foundation for your entire G1 Elite.
Correct.
That's amazing. Are you guys still friends now?
Yeah, we're very good friends. But what the cool part about it is, it's the gym. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, right? It's a rinky-dink gym, holes in the walls. But I loved it because it kind of brought us to this perspective, like, not everything's going to be all the glamour. You got to go out there and work for it. You got to make sure that you appreciate the things that you have, So I think the parents loved it as well because it showed like, hey, humble beginnings. This is where we start. This is how everything, this is where the grind starts. So it was pretty great and an awesome experience.
Are you still training there?
We are not. So now through time, now it's been 5 years now. God again opened another door for me to be a varsity coach at Faith Baptist.
Where is that? For people who don't know where Faith Baptist is, not familiar with Southern California basketball, explain where we are now, where that is, where the old high school, where the old gym was.
Los Angeles, California, but in the middle of the San Fernando Valley, out in Canoga Park.
Okay.
And that's where it's located.
So you're coaching there.
Yes.
And you're also running G1.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to balance the two things?
So with team, right, you can't do this on your own. I have awesome support from my coaches and even some parents that volunteer and help me out from time to time. So
that's wonderful. And you coach how many grades?
So we have grades from 1st all the way to 8th grade as of right now.
When you're coaching, are you coaching God first? Are you coaching basketball and then get to know basketball through God through basketball in a very practical day-to-day sense? Like, how does it work?
So in the middle of practice, I'll just stop practice and just talk about what it means to, let's say, if I say, hey, I want you guys to be disciplined. And I think God, and then I'll go say in the Bible, this is what it talks about, to have discipline and to just trust the process. God is not always going to give you everything you were asking for, right? You got to make sure that He knows what's in your heart and what you want. But that doesn't mean He's always going to give you what you want because He knows what you need. He's going to give you what you need, not what you want. But through that, man, you just got to work through it and continue to trust that, He knows what's best for you. So in the middle of practice, I'll kind of stop and talk about a little bit of that, a little bit of this, different topics.
Yeah.
But that's how I do it, man. And it's not about, hey guys, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this to get, what you want. You got to make sure that you just continue to pray on it, continue to help, have God lead you on the things that you want.
So my question to you is do you think that God puts difficulty in your way to develop your faith, or do you develop your faith through finding God through difficulty or communing with God through difficulty?
I think God allows things to happen. Like we pray for things, right? We ask, hey God, I want you to help me to become more patient. I think He'll give you opportunity to be more patient, right?
Yeah.
So he presents things in front of you to say, hey man, I know you've been wanting this. This is how we're going to prepare to get there. It might not be right now, but eventually I'm going to help you see, okay, this is what we need to do. And this is, I have big plans for you. And I want you to trust me that this is how it's going to work.
Are you still in communion with your father-in-law in terms of how you approach your faith?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, we don't always have those intimate one-on-one moments. Just very open to having any conversation.
Yeah.
You know, I go up to him, ask for advice and different things, but you know, he knows that my faith is the most important thing for me and my family, and I think he appreciates that.
Were you always able to have a good relationship with your father-in-law, or did it take some time?
Luckily, you know, it was a situation where he was very friendly, and we hit it off from the start.
How long did you know his daughter before you asked her for marriage?
Man, it wasn't that long. You know, I proposed to her probably like 11 months after dating.
How fast did you know you wanted to marry her?
I kind of knew almost right away, you know, because she came to actually where I was working at. We met at Shepherd of the Hills Church.
What was she doing there?
She was there to watch a basketball game with her friends. And I look over my shoulder like, yo, who's that? So I introduced myself.
Kids, that's what we call W-Riz. He starts rolling up on her. I'm sorry, go ahead. Let's do a play-by-play. How did that happen?
So
did you coach? You call a timeout? Did you look over and give her a wink?
I was refereeing a basketball adult league game. Because so I was working there now. You know, they hired me, and I was doing different things for the program. So I was refereeing a game.
Confirm or deny that after you saw her, but before you talked, you went into the hallway and got in some push-ups and sit-ups, and walked over to her afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I had that opportunity, I would have. But since it was in the middle of the game, I was just like, you know what? In this timeout, let me go over here real quick.
Did you really?
And introduce myself.
You introduced yourself that way?
Yeah, I did.
You didn't know her friend? You just didn't?
I knew her friend, so that was my way to kind of have that conversation.
Yeah.
I went over to her friend and just said, hey, Beverly, this is...
Go ahead.
You know, hey, who's your friend? You know, what are you guys doing here? And we just, started that conversation.
I mean, cheesy lines could have abounded, could have called a technical foul on, all kind of stuff.
That would have been good.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
So is it true, word on the street is that you had to play your father-in-law to be one-on-one to earn his daughter's hand in marriage, and you beat him 12-0. Is this true? I don't know. I made that up.
I think that would have been a lot easier for sure.
Understood. So you have 3 daughters now.
I do.
You're coaching people, young men only, or young men and women?
We're open to having girls play with the boys.
Yep.
So sometimes we do have girls play with our guy team. But
how old are your daughters?
8, 7, and 1.
Are they the 1-year-old? Are they playing at all with you in terms of formalized basketball?
This is their first year playing rec ball.
Okay.
You know,
how's it going? Are you just pulling out your hair on the sideline?
You know what? I let them have fun. I don't make it a big deal. I let them do what they want to do. If they want to play basketball, it's great. But it's something that, I've said it from the beginning when we've had kids, that I'm never going to force them to play basketball. Just because I'm in the game, I'm around it a lot, doesn't mean that they have to.
Yep.
And whatever they aspire to be, man, I'm going to be a support to them. So right now, it's all about having fun. Whatever they want to do, let's do it.
And you're coaching your kids in G1,
right.
G1 Elite. Is it more about development, or is it more about winning, or is it something else entirely? Is it finding God?
It's always great to win, right? Everybody wants to win and compete. So that's my biggest thing is as long as we go out there and compete.
Yeah.
We want to develop the kids in practice. We work on skill work. We work on the fundamentals. And we don't necessarily work on 20 different plays. I think the most important thing is to help them get ready for high school basketball. And that's what we want to do is put them in positions where they're going to succeed in high school.
Well, you talk about one of your sayings, or one of the things they say that you coach is you want people to be prepared to compete at the highest levels of basketball, but in life too. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's our biggest thing is when I look at a kid misbehaving or being disrespectful, I look at him like, man, I care more about you, who you are as a person, more than who you are as a basketball player. So let's work on this. We got to do better. let's correct this, so we can, when you're out there in the world, you're able to respond in a certain way, where you're like, you know what, this is the right approach here.
What has been your darkest moment as a coach, or as someone who's running a program? The scariest, the darkest moment.
Darkest moment, and it was something that I'll never forget. Is we had a player be diagnosed with cancer. And
what grade was this? How old was
he? Was 12 years old, so about the 6th grade.
How many years ago?
This was when I was at Shepherd Hills Church, so this is about 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay.
And it was heartbreaking, right? So for him to pass away, it was something that very tragic, and my heart goes out to the family to this day, because you never want to see your child, go through that. And then, but one gleam of light was that we presented an opportunity. We got the kids together in the middle of a huddle. This is before we knew he had cancer. And I had a pastor with me, and he was there to kind of lead the group and say, hey guys, we're going to talk about accepting Jesus today. And we're not going to make this public. We want you guys to close your eyes, and we just want, this is between you and God. And whoever wants to accept Jesus and you feel like you don't have that relationship with Jesus, we want you guys to just close your eyes and raise your hand. And me, being the coach and the director, I kind of wanted to take a peek.
Did you?
And so I did. And hopefully this is me, seeing that everybody already has that relationship with God, but also seeing who else is questioning and seeing who's not sure.
Yeah.
And the only kid that raised his hand was Jonathan, who was diagnosed with cancer. He raised his hand, and then so we put hands over him, we prayed over him, and a few months later is when we found out he had cancer, and he passed away probably a year after that. But it was a dark moment, but at the same time it was something that I'll never forget, and it's just dear to my heart to know that he raised his hand to accept Jesus, and he wanted to have that relationship with him. So, and in the corner of my eye, I look over and I look at his dad, and he's just in tears, breaking down, because they never encountered that, right? They probably never went to church before that, and so for him to experience his son raise his hand and want to devote his life to Christ, I thought that was pretty awesome. And for me, this is why we run G1. And not only that, but we have moments, right? Here, there's a kid, we run a little rec league for our program. It's for kids that don't necessarily have the opportunity to play club ball or feel like they're not ready. We run this rec league. And I remember 2 weekends ago, I gave a kid a jersey, and I happen to stand right outside the gym, and I'm looking, and his dad and this kid, he puts on his jersey, and he takes a picture with his jersey on outside, and you could tell he's just pumped. Like, he's smacking his arms and his hands. He's like, all right, let's do this. And I could tell this is his first time ever putting on a jersey. And I'm like, that's what it's about. And I shared that with his dad. I was like, you know what, man? That almost brought me to tears, man, because this is why we're doing this. For him to have that moment and be excited to play, I thought that was pretty awesome. For those are the kind of moments as a coach, man, and as a parent and somebody that just loves the game, you see the kid be that excited. Those are pretty cool moments.
Founder, director, head coach of G1 Elite Basketball, lead pastor at the Church of Hoops, Rolo Nunez. I very, very much appreciate the conversation. It's been fantastic.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. Good luck out there, and good luck on all the stuff you're doing in the future.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.